friends. Thanks for having me come here. Hello. Yeah, thanks. So I'm going to talk about linting, and my name's Jamund, and I better get started. I have 10 minutes, so it's crazy. So first of all, how many of you use like a linter in your JavaScript? Okay. How many of you have are really expert at linting and doing weird things with it? This is really good. Okay, this is the perfect audience. I'm so happy. So for those that aren't so familiar with, linters are just tools that will check for bugs and problems in your JavaScript. You know about linters like this that will check for problems in your shirts. And this one's at IKEA. It's $1.49. It's really probably good. It says it removes animal hairs from car seats. So there's a lot of good benefits of linters, but specifically in JavaScript, what I'm thinking about is three main things that you can do with linters. There's enforcing certain kind of syntax, like rules about white space, or how you want to have where you want to put your brackets, and how many arguments you should have in a function. And then there's also enforcing patterns and best practices. So are we a promises people, or are we callback people? Or do we use var, or do we use let? Or these types of patterns in your programs. And then there's also catching bugs that are specific to your application. And I think if you sort of had some kind of chart, you would see that most of the time with linting, we focus on style. So how many of you use something called DonutJS to do your linting? Okay, a couple of people. It's popular among a lot of Node folks. What about ESLint? ESLint, JS Hint, maybe? Okay, a couple JS Hint folks. And there's probably other tools out there as well. A lot of those rules that they have in those systems focus on style, making your code look consistent, or having it making your code look nice in whatever version of your team thinks is nice, because everyone doesn't agree actually on what that looks like. And then there's the patterns, which I think is probably style. I bet is 60% of the linting focuses on style, maybe 30% on enforcing patterns, and then maybe 10% actually catches bugs, which I think is sort of the point of what linting is supposed to be about, is finding bugs, finding mistakes in your program. But I think we sort of say, okay, I've got linting going, it's fine. It makes sure that I don't have weird indentation. I'm done. And what I want to sort of pitch to you is that this isn't such a nice way, actually. We can learn how to be better at linting, and if we learn the tools, we can really be effective in stopping bugs that would come into our application and wreck them and make them not good applications. So what I want to teach you to do is how to write these rules. ESLint is a very popular linting program and linting tool, and it makes it easy to write your own rules. So if your team has a bug, or you do something bad in your program and you think, I always make the same mistake every time. I'm just very forgetful. And for me, I do this a lot. And you can just, you can make a rule to make sure you don't make the mistake again. It's like a unit test, but for things that you didn't write yet. So it actually lets you solve problems that you don't yet have, because you can write a test, a lint rule that will say, make sure that I never make that mistake again, instead of making sure that you don't make it in this one particular part of your code. Does that make sense? So it's good. Everyone sees the point of this. Now I will tell you about a problem that I have. So I work at PayPal, and at PayPal we deal with currencies and numbers, and because we're sending people money all the time. And it's pretty common that we want to make a function that's get a formatted amount and put it on the screen. So we grab the user's currency symbol, the amount that they're sending, whatever, and we're like, okay, put this on the screen. But can anyone think why this might be problematic, the simple way it's done here? Anyone that's dealt with globalization might have a hunch. What is that? Okay, loose typing is a problem, actually. Sometimes amounts are strings, sometimes they're numbered. Where does the currency symbol go? Okay, yeah, so let's go back to IKEA real quick. So in America, this is $1.49. In Germany, it's 0.79. So they don't even use a currency symbol, at least the way that IKEA's German website formats it. And then in France, it's one with a space and then the euro symbol. So all of a sudden, my simple program that was going to just add an amount and a currency symbol doesn't actually work in other locales. This is a big problem for me. I'm not going into the details of this. We don't actually care about this. I just want to show you how nice it is with a tool like ESLint to be able to write these custom rules. And then you can think, what mistakes that you're likely to see in your applications and just sort of plop in those rules and solve them for yourself. So I noticed a lot of people use ESLint. It's a cool linting tool. It's very pluggable. There's all these like plugins like for AngularJS or React or whatever kind of fancy frameworks you have. Someone wrote a whole bunch of rules that will help you write those better, or at least according to their opinions of what you should write. And the way that I want to show you how to write these custom rules is a cool website called astexplorer.net. I think it was invented by someone at Facebook, and it will basically, I'll show you some cool things that it can do. It's a very fancy website. So let me get out of here and go to demo time. So it's not super readable. Okay, is that more or less readable? Okay. So yeah, this is astexplorer.net, and if you come to this website, you can go over here to transform, and you can click ESLint, and this has like this built-in template for making custom ESLint rules. And again, if you're sort of like, what's happening here? We're making rules that will allow us to flag bad code in our applications. So we know that sometimes we make mistakes in our applications, and we want to write rules to prevent those mistakes from happening again. By default, it has this little simple example here that flags anytime you use a template literal. Maybe for some reason this isn't supported in your platform. And you can see in the bottom here, there, yeah, it's telling you that it's bad. Do not use template literal. So we're going to make a custom ESLint rule for the problem I described of having formatted amounts that aren't supporting locales. So yeah, so here's my function up there, get formatted amount. We know that it's not good. We have at work a library that will help us add these things together and calculate them properly. We don't need to use this manual way, but somehow we always end up rewriting code like this. So I'm going to put the microphone over here so I can type. So what you see on the right-hand side is the abstract syntax tree that represents this code. Raise your hand if you know about abstract syntax trees. Okay, so like a third of you. I'll tell you very quickly, an abstract syntax tree is sort of like a JavaScript object that contains metadata about your code. So everything in the code is represented in the syntax tree. And with the syntax tree, you can programmatically like figure out what's happening in your code. It's very cool. A lot of really interesting tools are built based on syntax trees. I don't have time to talk about them in detail, but let me show you a quick example. If I click on the function here, you see on the syntax tree it highlights a function declaration. So it's just like a JavaScript object that tells you what your code is doing. And with that, we can use ESLint or our JavaScript program to inspect the code and look for problems. So instead of just looking for strings, like anytime someone's using a plus symbol, we'll just assume it's bad, which won't work like if it's in a comment or something like that. We can actually use the syntax tree to analyze it. So let me show you how we'll do this. What I'm trying to find is anytime I'm adding to an amount. And luckily, we usually use the name amount when I'm adding it. So let's start with this plus symbol. In the syntax tree land, this is called a binary expression. So down here in the bottom left-hand corner, I'm going to type binary expression. So now this is going to warn anytime I have a binary expression. And I'll say, do not add up amount fields manually. Amounts manually. And so now here's my custom ESLint rule. But unfortunately, I don't want to do this anytime. I'm specifically looking for, because this right now will warn on like 1 plus 2. So it'll complain about every single adding, right? So every binary expression, which would be like other math as well. So I want to do something where it's just when I'm adding amounts. So if I look back at the tree again, the syntax tree over here, the binary expression has two properties that I care about, a left and a right. So if I click into left, it's something called an identifier. It's just the name symbol. And then the one on the right is the name amount. So really what I want to say is something like this. If node dot, what is it? So if the binary expression has a left property with a name of amount, then we complain. Otherwise, if we have the binary expression with the right-hand part as amount, then we'll also complain. And yeah, so now it's complaining properly. You'll notice that it's complaining about the word symbol. We want it to complain about amount. So down here in my report function, which is built into the ESLint code, I can say report on the right node, and then it'll switch to the right one. This one's the left node. So we very simply created a little rule, a little ESLint rule that will then warn us anytime that we're trying to add values to a variable called amount, which it sounds like it's kind of a silly example, but it's actually a mistake that we do make at PayPal from time to time when we're trying to quickly put together something that adds up code. So with ESLint, I could then take this, put it in like an NPM module, and then share that with every single person in my company. And so all of a sudden, this little mistake that maybe my teams make, well, maybe like 30 other teams are making the same mistake, once a month or once a year. And now with this ESLint rule, I can share that out, and all those bugs will go away, and we'll have many more happy customers and less confused customers because we're not switching their currency symbols or putting them in the right space. So just quickly to show one quick other example. Here's another example. A lot of people, I'm in like the Slack channel at work for JavaScript, and I see a lot of people trying to invent their own ways of doing HTTP requests, and I see them writing all this code like with the streams, and some people, like Node people, are really excited about this, but I just love to use request to do these, and so I would recommend they do something like down at the bottom, just use the request module to get stuff instead of trying to write all this stuff themselves. But many of them are new to Node and they don't know that these things exist. So here's an example. You could easily write a rule that looks for this HTTP or HTTPS.request and just report about it. Again, a very simple rule. It's like literally less than 10 lines of code that will help maybe our newer team members get used to best practices in Node.js. So a couple of things you can do with ESLint, and like I said, there are a whole bunch of cool plugins. Like here's the promise plugin that I maintain to try and help people use promises more effectively in their code. It has a whole bunch of rules that you can enable for your code. And then there's others for React and for and a bunch of built-in rules as well. So I know I talked fast, but linting is very nice. It can help your code get better, and if you really want to up-level your code in your team, it's worth investing time to learn how to write these custom rules, and it will be a lot of fun. I think you'll enjoy it very much. Thank you.